This shirt is so much fun. Hey guys, it's Reagan and today I'm here to do a classic, one video I always look forward to film every month, and that is my book haul for the month of January. I have a pretty decent amount of books to show you guys, a lot of ones that I'm very excited for. There were some really awesome releases this month, so without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right in. The first book is a new release, and that is Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. This is the second book to the Passenger series that I read last year and really enjoyed. This is a time travel, historical fiction novel, just kind of like book porn for me. Any type of time travel through history is just something I'm going to be a fan of, especially when we get to experience multiple different centuries and things like that, and time periods and locations. I live for it. I love it. This is a really fast-paced story following our main character who finds out, kind of surprisingly, that she and her family has this ability to time travel, and she's kind of thrust into adventure like many young adult heroines are, but it's actually really good. So I really enjoyed this story. I'm excited to continue on with the second book. Next up is a book that I've actually already read before, but I read so many years ago, and I'm really interested in reading this whole series because there's like a billion novels in this series, at least it feels like. A lot of companion series anyway. And the first book is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. Maria V. Snyder and the Study series is like well known, well loved. It's been around for a long time. And I've already read this book, and I've already really enjoyed this book, but it's been like 4 years since I've read this. This follows Yelena, who is, at the beginning of this novel, is a prisoner and she's set for execution. However, she strikes a deal with like the King's Guard, or like the head prison guard. Basically, she becomes a food taster for poison for the king and queen. So essentially her life is on the line, and she could die very quickly if she, you know, consumes poison that's designed to kill someone else. That's kind of the start of the novel. It kind of expands very quickly from there. It's really good, and like I said, there's so many books in this series that I'm really interested in rereading this, finishing the original trilogy, and moving on to the other books. The next book I'm going to talk about is the Proustopia Book Club pick for the month of January, and this month we are watching with HMH Kids, and that is Ever the Hunted by Erin Sumrill. This is another YA fantasy book. I like YA fantasy, guys. That is set in a world that's kind of a fantastical, fairy tale, traditional fantasy setting, if that makes sense. We follow our main character, Britta. At the beginning of the novel, she's just facing her father's death, and for her whole life, her father has been training her to be able to be a great huntress and a tracker. However, she's also an outcast in the town, so after her father's death, basically no one is really trying to help her, so she resorts to poaching off the king's land to survive. She's captured, unfortunately, and from there she has to strike a deal with the kingdom to basically hunt down her father's murderer in exchange for her freedom. It is an adventure. It has a slow burning romance for sure. I really like the world on this one. I think it has a nice fantasy, like fairy tale element that I really like, and Britta as a main character is just so capable. She's really inspiring, but that's going in too much detail. This book was great though. Next up is another really big release for this month, and that is Wind Witch by Susan Dennard, the second book to the Truth Witch series, duology. I'm actually not sure, but all I know is that I'm really psyched about this book. This is the Truth Witch series is a fantasy novel that is set in a world called Witchlands, where a whole bunch of people with power exist, known as witches, and different witches have different capabilities. This particular series follows a witch that is a truth witch, so she can tell when people are lying, and her very best friend, who is a thread witch, who can then see connections and how people are connected in and around their lives and in history and through time and things like that. It is a story of adventure. It is a story of badass female friendship. It's so good. I love it. And there's a slow burning romance, but I also like don't even know who I want to ship. All I know is super psyched to have this, super excited to pick this up. Cindy Williams-Chimet and Maria V. Snyder blurbed this on the back, so we know we got some good YA fantasy up in here. Next is a novel I've been meaning to read and pick up for forever, and I finally just bit the bullet when I was buying textbooks, because treat yourself. And that is A Torch Against the Night by Sapa Tahir. This is the second book. The first one, of course, being An Ember in the Ashes. This is another YA fantasy series that kind of has a Roman-inspired history. It's very violent, it's very war-heavy, and Honestly, it's been a while since I read the first one. I feel like I need to reread this series, but I remember really, really enjoying it, the first one. It's a multi-perspective novel that's dark and gritty and like it will capture your attention very, very quickly. It is a world that I just think is super interesting, and I feel like it's very rich in the way that it is such a reflection of both our history and our reality, so I'm excited to pick this guy up. Next is a novel that was sent to me for review by Blink, who I'm also working with for this video, and that is Unfolding by Jonathan Friesen. This follows our main character Jonah, who's kind of the outcast loner in the town, and he's in love with the girl next door, the perfect girl, seemingly. However, he knows that he can never have her. A series of circumstances and dramatics happen in town that causes Stormy to actually seek out Jonah's help, and the unlikely pair begin to unravel this mystery. This, I hear, is a really awesome thriller. It's full of like twists and turns, and it'll just like keep you reading through. I'm excited to have it. I always like a good surprising forbidden romance and a good thriller to keep me entertained. Next stack of books are like the billion books I have from Book Outlet this month. As you guys know, I have a Book Outlet page, which I will leave linked down below. I work with Book Outlet every month. This month is no different. I have more books this month because remember when I said a few book hauls ago that I sent books to the wrong address? Well, they sent them to the right address, so now I have all of the Book Outlet books to show you. The first book is City of Fire, and this book is a behemoth, and one of the main characters, his name is Regan, spelled just like how I spell it, R-E-G-A-N. This is a multi-perspective novel. When I say multi-perspective, we follow like a billion different perspectives, all set during the blackout, I think in like 1976 in New York City, and kind of the events that happened there. I think there's a murder that takes place during this blackout, and we follow all these different perspectives to kind of unravel what happened that night. It sounds really good. It's a little daunting, but I've heard really good things, and I am excited to have it. Next, the book I was so psyched to see on there because it's a small book, and I did not want to pay full price, and that is Sudden Death by Alvaro Enrique. This is like, I feel like a history lover's just playground. I read the synopsis for this and I was immediately sold, hooked, like just I needed it right away. I'm just gonna read you the first part of this. It's a great. Sudden Death is a daring kaleidoscope novel about the clash of empires and ideas told through a tennis match in the 16th century between radical Italian artist Caravaggio and the Spanish poet Francisco de Quevedo, played with a ball made from the hair of the beheaded Anne Boleyn. So I feel like this is going to be like a mashup of a lot of very prevalent historical figures and events into one story that's going to be like kind of surrealist and very, very strange. However, I'm excited for the obscure historical references I hope to find in here. Next, I finally got a fan favorite, and that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I don't know, I've heard really good things about this. I have been like meaning to read this for what feels like so long. This is a science fiction story set on Mars that I hear is like a good crossing of like Hunger Games and other very famous dystopian stories. It sounds like it's full of action. I think this would be a really easy read if I'm ever kind of feeling slumpy, so I decided, well, I saw it for cheap, to pick it up and add it to my collection. Next is a book I got scratch and dent, but so worth it because I'm so excited to have it. And that is The Great Book of Amber, The Complete Amber Chronicles 1 through 10 by Roger Zelazny. This is so incredibly famous in the fantasy world, and again, this encompasses all 10 books, and I also don't even think it's technically completed. I honestly don't know a lot about this series, but it says, witness the titanic battle of supremacy waged on Earth in the courts of chaos and on a magical world of mystery, adventure, and romance. Amber, the one true world, and now the one great book. I think it's literally just like a great, giant, high fantasy novel full of everything you need. Fighting, adventure, court intrigue, just all the great stuff wrapped into one series. And again, this is like kind of a prolific book within the fantasy circle, so I needed to have it. Next is a beautiful edition I was so psyched to see, and that is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, but in this amazing like cloth bound edition. It's so beautiful, and then look at the inside pages. This was only $6 versus being like $25 in America, so a super great steal. This is a classic story, which I have read, The Hobbit. And I just wanted this edition because I actually don't own a physical copy of this book, and when I saw this one I was like, it's time for me to rectify that, so Next is a continuation of my collection of the paperback UK editions of Harry Potter, and this is The Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. I just really love these UK edition covers. I think they're just so beautiful. So when I see them on Book Outlet for incredibly discounted, it, you know, gives me all the reason I need to continue to expand my Harry Potter collection beyond what it already is, which is already too many, but I don't care. Next up, and I just realized this now, is book 5 to a series, and I thought this was the first book to the series. I saw this book around Amazon, and I saw it on Book Outlet for like really good price, and I was like, oh, that's definitely the first book in a fantasy series of an author I've heard of, so I'll just grab it. It's the 5th book in the series. Anyway, it's The Fatal Tree by Stephen R. Lawhead, book 5 to the Bright Empires series. I don't know what this is about, and I don't want to read the back of this because it is book 5 to a series, and I feel incredibly dumb. And the last book I have to show you guys is The Star-Touched Queen by Roshani Chokshi. This is a novel that I've seen around, it's really popular, but honestly I met the author at Y'all Fest, and she's like the funniest, nicest, sweetest woman. So when I saw the book, I was like, I need to get that. I need to rep her. I need to show this off. I need to read this because I just like, I'm kind of obsessed with her. But this is a really awesome story. It's a fantasy story that's inspired by the author's both Indian and Filipino roots. So it's a folklore story kind of inspired by that heritage, which I think is awesome. And I'm just excited to see that we are getting more stories inspired by real experiences, which is amazing. That is everything. Those are all of the books in my January book haul. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Goodbye!